Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. So I think it's about time we dive in now with some of our experts in audit. So we're going to start with audit. So welcome to Sarah and James. Thanks for joining us today. I've got some questions for you guys. I'm going to start with you, Sarah, if that's all right. So Sarah, just can you explain what is audit? How would you explain this to your friends and family?
So audit is an independent function. So obviously we're talking about it in Lloyds Banking Group context, but as both you and Ian have mentioned, it works across all different industries. And our role is to really help keep the group safe. So we've got a large organisation with a lot of different challenges across it. And as a function, we work across all of the different teams of the group to go in and basically do a little bit of a check on the work and the processes that they've got to kind of be a fresh pair of eyes, really, to check and see whether or not there's anything that could be working better, whether we've got any risks, whether we're concerned about anything happening. Because sometimes if you are the person who's working on it day to day, I think we've all probably studied a piece of paper or something or been searching for something and you can't see it because it's right in front of your eyes. So audit is basically that person that you call over that comes and uses that fresh pair of eyes and goes, actually, do you know what? Because of the way you're doing that, we've maybe got a bit of a risk of fraud, or actually, do you know what? We can make that a wee bit more streamlined and work a bit better. So we're basically a fresh pair of eyes that help keep the group safe and make sure that everybody's money is safe and everything is working really well.
Yeah, well, that sounds really, really interesting, Sarah. And I mean, James, from your point of view, how do auditors actually go about this work that Sarah's talking about? How do they do it?
So a huge part of my role is getting to know the different parts of the bank and understanding who is doing what and how they're doing it. And I do that by meeting people all the time and catching up with different areas of the finance function, which is the audit area that I cover, and learning really the ins and outs of how they do their jobs. Then we try and break it. So we'll go in and we'll design different tests and different strategies that we can go into and really try and challenge some of these approaches and see if there's any risks, to Sarah's point, that might be happening that we haven't necessarily realised yet. And once we have, if we do find anything, if anything isn't working, then it's all about working with those business teams to help them understand what the issue that we found is, what the root cause of that issue is, and what the risks that might arise from that is, and then how to fix it. So it's a really collaborative function that we can work across the bank.
Yeah. And how did you get into audit then, James?
So I started off as what we call an external auditor, so working in a accountancy firm, trained as an accountant, and a lot of that was looking at different customers and looking at their financial records and giving an independent opinion on the financial records. I moved into internal audit at Lloyds about 5 years ago, because I wanted to see a different side of the job that I do. I wanted to see how the financial skills that I'd learned in accountancy actually could transfer into something that was much more across the bank and seeing lots of different areas of the business.
Right. So does that mean then if you started in a different organisation, does that mean that if you want to, people can move companies and the experience that they've got in one company or industry is actually relevant to other sectors as well?
Absolutely. So when I joined the bank, I actually came in working with the insurance team. I'd never worked with insurance before, but it was the skills that I had learned as part of an accountant and an auditor meant that I could just transfer those skills into a new area. And whilst I've been here, I now work across finance, and it's completely different again. So the base level skills of being able to question things and be that fresh pair of eyes and work through solutions with the business are really transferable no matter where you go.
Oh, that's good to know, definitely. And I think the guys who are on the call will be really interested in that. Sarah, I'll just come back to you. So whereabouts do our auditors work then in Lloyds Banking Group?
So we literally cover the entire group. So we will audit all the different parts of the group. So we have teams that cover everything from software engineering and platforms, so really sort of technical IT teams. So if you're quite into the technical space, we cover that. Then we've also got people who look after things like the retail bank, so a branch that people might have been in, thinking about the people that work in there. We've also got people that cover insurance and pensions, like James has mentioned, and then also all of your back office, so your HR types of departments, basically every single part of the group, which has a lot more than just sort of finance or counting money. You know, the bank has so much more. And the brilliant thing about the apprenticeships that we offer is over the course of the apprenticeships, the apprentices will actually do 6 placements within internal audit. And across those 6 placements, you're rotating around different teams. So you get the opportunity to do a little bit in sort of one of the more IT related teams. You do stuff in finance, you do stuff in business related teams. So thinking about your consumer or your pensions, those types of things. And you rotate, which gives you a really good understanding. So thinking about that T that we were talking about earlier, it gives you a really good understanding of the group overall. And then once you've completed those 6 placements, you actually then do a 6-month placement actually physically outside of internal audit and actually doing everything that you've been auditing. So, you know, if you've got a real interest in finance, you might go and work actually in a finance team. If you've got a real interest in IT, you might go and actually be the person who is setting up the cyber controls for the group. So it gives you a really good chance to kind of build that knowledge, because what we want is people who have a good understanding of how the group is all connected. And it also kind of going back to what James was talking about earlier, you know, when you're thinking about your career and different places that you can move into over your career, because we've got such a large and varied group and we've got teams that cover all of that. Actually, if you then think, I want to totally change industries and I'm going to go get a job working for a council or working for a tech firm, you could be auditing their IT or their finances, and actually you've got a lot of skills from your current role that can then transfer over. So it gives you a really good breadth of knowledge and understanding of how the group works.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to know that the skills are so transferable, which is probably something that a lot of people might not realise. I mean, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. I was going to ask you about professional qualifications, if there are any that people would need, but also I know that you're actually going to be advertising for some live apprenticeship roles, aren't you? So do you want to tell us a little bit about that as well, Sarah?
Yeah, so we will be advertising for roles both in Edinburgh and for the very first time, which we're super excited about, and we're going to have apprentices in Bristol. Bristol is where James is based, so he's vested interest in welcoming everybody. So we're very keen to get some new apprentices in that area. And over the course of that apprenticeship, the apprentices will be working their way through the Institute of Internal Audit qualifications. So you would be getting internationally recognised qualifications, and actually at the end of the apprenticeship you would end up with your chartered status in internal audit, which is fantastic, and that is fully transferable. You also, as part of it, because of the way the qualification works, get a master's as well. So at the end of the 4.5 years, you could not only have 4.5 years of experience and a better understanding of what areas you're really interested in, but have your master's degree and also your chartered status, which really then, you know, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, all that from an apprenticeship, you know. I mean, it's incredible. They sound like great opportunities, Sarah. Thank you. Thanks. I know we're going to need to move on to the next section, but thanks, guys, for chatting.